just wanted to be like my dad. Being able to see him love my mom, raise me and my sister, show up to work every single day, not complain, be reliable, be dependable. I mean, I think that's where it started. I started out wanting to be like him, knowing that he, had some experiences, some opportunities afforded to him with basketball. And then growing up in the 90s and during the Jordan era, I got a chance to see the game played at its highest level, and then being in, really close proximity to one of the all-time great basketball programs in college basketball history is where the momentum kind of shifted towards desiring to want to be the best I could be in basketball. And then I'm thankful that my dad put me in a great situation to be able to have that type of dream and aspiration, attained just through his work and commitment and making sure that I had all the resources that I needed to play at the highest level.
In a corporate world where all employees have great leaders with no egos that create fun cultures where people can do their best work, the employees and companies thrive while doing great things for the customers, themselves, and each other.
Well, we know that rarely happens. I'm Jeff Palacio. I have been a leader for over 40 years for every t-shirt size company, from small 16 employees to extra large over 1 million. Please join me while I interview outstanding leaders that will share stories of great leadership and not so great. It will help you become a better leader while poking fun about all the crazy shit that happens in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Joe Deshawn, and welcome to the Corporate Couch with Jeff Palacio. Today's episode is brought to you by Exec HQ, a C-suite fractional firm providing elite executives for your business. Today, Jeff is interviewing Wayne Simien. Wayne played basketball for the Kansas University Jayhawks for 4 years under coaches Roy Williams and Bill Self. During that time, he played in 2 Final Fours, won 3 Big 12 championships, and was named Big 12 Player of the Year as well as First Team Consensus All-American. He later played NBA basketball for the Miami Heat. After his basketball career ended, he was a college campus minister for 13 years. He now serves as the Associate Athletics Director of Engagement at KU. You can learn more about Wayne at waynesimien.com. Let's listen as Jeff talks to Wayne.
Wayne, welcome to the Corporate Couch today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
You're my second guest. Looks like you're doing the interview standing up on this Zoom call, and you're the largest guest, tallest, I should say.
Yeah.
You're still measuring.
I am stand up. I feel like it helps with the energy and the engagement. I know we all have felt like we're had to adapt to the virtual life. Which is good, but part of me does miss the regular in-person, but I do appreciate the flexibility that this gives us here as leaders and want to communicate as much energy and engagement that I can, and I do that best standing up like a basketball. I like a true basketball guy can get down.
I love it. And so we were introduced by David Voorhees. We both appeared on his podcast, Running Hot. And the only other guest that was standing up that I haven't published his interview yet, that's coming up in a week or two, is Glenn Fisher of NavMD, and they're the sponsor of that podcast. See, yeah. So it just comes full circle. You both are high energy, fit people, so that it says a lot. But very excited, honored that you're here on the Corporate Couch with me. But let's start with a fun question. Even the people know you fairly well. What's one thing that would surprise them about you?
Things are known about me mainly from my athletic career at KU a long time ago. I'm still getting much of an appreciation for my origins in terms of how much my upbringing, whether it's my parents' influence over my life, where I grew up, Leavenworth, Kansas, and just kind of the blue collar, military, industrious ecosystem that I grew up in that was chocked full of discipline, respect, honor, hard work. I don't think I appreciated those things nearly as much during my time growing up, or maybe even in my 20s and 30s. But now as I look back as a husband, a father, an executive. I really am growing up, or really have learning to how much I appreciate those areas what I grew up in and how much they've affected me as a leader. And so I would say that some of the things that aren't known about me that aren't necessarily basketball related is how important those things have become to me as of late.
You were named after your dad. Was he ex-military?
He actually wasn't military. My parents were civilians. His dad was military, which is what brought him to Leavenworth, Kansas, where the Army base is. And that was is interestingly enough, both my dad and I were headed the military route, which we were very excited about. But it was actually the game of basketball that provided some other opportunities for us to be able to go on and to get an education, to play and to learn in a different leadership capacity. So my dad played at Abilene University, which is a small NAIA school in the Kansas City area. But it's interesting. I have a phenomenal relationship with both my parents. They've been married over 40 years, and with my dad. And I was just thinking about it this most recent Father's Day, in the sense that, Jeff, one of the most valuable things that my dad modeled for me is that I never remember seeing him trying to be someone that he wasn't. Meaning, I never saw him try to go out of his way to impress people. I never saw him go out of his way to maybe be the smartest guy in the room, though he was very smart and wise in a lot of ways. I never saw him go out of his way to try to be the funny guy, in the room to get people to laugh and to be like. He was fully confident and secure in who he was in every situation in front of every people group. And he was just consistent and steady and thoughtful and authentic and genuine. I tell you what, as I look back on it now, it's just so impressive as we find ourselves in these situations where you see a lot of inauthenticity and folks trying to maybe be something that they're not in order to get a approval rating or to find something beneficial on the other end. And so that's something that I had modeled and is certainly something that I want to try to emulate as well, not only from my children, but also as a leader in corporate spaces.
Yeah, no, amazing. We talked about, the influence of, people that have served in the military, whether it's, this generation or a generation previous, but I've interviewed probably 6, 7 people that have been amazing leaders in various armed services divisions. Just interviewed a 4-star general, Abe Abrahams. He was 39 years Army,
Wow.
incredible career. But I mean, just the life lessons and the leadership lessons, and you talked about people not being authentic, and I think and we can go a whole episode on social media, but in terms of the effects and everybody, it's everybody's highlight reel on social media, right? So it's you're trying to emulate people that aren't you. So it's I totally get that. I ask every guest, when you're a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? But I'm pretty sure for you it was playing NCAA, NBA basketball, or was there something else early on?
I think for the most part, I just wanted to be like my dad for the reasons why I mentioned early. And he works for Hallmark Cards for close to 40 years, which was a factory and a key anchor to the economy in our area. It's headquartered here in Kansas City, and just being able to see him love my mom, raise me and my sister, show up to work every single day, not complain. Be reliable, be dependable. I mean, I think that's where it started. I started out wanting to be like him. And then, knowing that he, had some experiences, some opportunities afforded to him with basketball. And then growing up in the 90s and during the Jordan era, I got a chance to see the game played at its highest level. And then being in, really close proximity to one of, the all-time great basketball programs in college basketball history is where the momentum kind of shifted towards desiring to want to be the best I could be in basketball. And so it was interesting to see how that kind of developed. And then I'm thankful that my dad put me in a great situation to be able to have that type of dream and aspiration attained just through his work and commitment and making sure that I had all the resources, that I needed to play at the highest level.
Yeah. So was Jordan your kind of the one you wanted to emulate? Who were kind of your heroes growing up besides your dad?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, growing up in the era that I did, he was, the best, and in light of all the GOAT, the greatest of all time dialogue that's happening this day and age, I would certainly say he's the case for that. But I also grew up loving guys like David Robinson, the Admiral.
Yeah, another ex-military.
Yeah, another ex-military guy, and of course with his play, but also his character. I love the intensity and the force to be reckoned with that a guy named Karl Malone was. Just his physique and physicality. I really appreciated that. So there are other guys growing up that I really liked, but man, it's tough to argue against aspiring to be like Michael Jordan and having your tongue out when you're in the driveway and wearing your shorts a certain length, and of course wearing the Jordan shoes. And so his iconic status certainly impacted me as a young athlete.
Yeah, there's a great book called Playing for Keeps. David Halberstam wrote it, a Pulitzer-winning author, and it talks about not only his influence on NBA, but really economically the influence he had on sports and everything he touched. And there was that movie with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon about the Nike shoes, and you never see Jordan, you just hear his voice, but the influence of his mom, and it was just he was just a one of a kind generational athlete for sure. So you had a fantastic high school career, win the 6A title your senior year. I think we had some similarities. My basketball career and your basketball career, you were a McDonald's All-American in high school, and I ate at McDonald's during my high school basketball.
It's funny. We were at an event here recently that was sponsored. It was a charity event, a basketball event that was sponsored by McDonald's, and one of the things that had us come out is those of us who were participating that were McDonald's All-Americans to come out and be celebrated and highlighted, which was a cool honor to be remembered. And, it's a significant honor even still to be considered one of the top 25 high school basketball players in the country. But we all joked that even that award nowadays won't get us a free Happy Meal. We still got to pay for all of our McDonald's, even though we were so-called, representing McDonald's at the highest level in terms of the All-American game. But it was a great honor.
Yeah, and there goes my next question. I thought I was going to ask, did you get any free perks like McDonald's for life or whatever, but obviously you didn't. So
yeah, no, I don't know. I think that they had like a nice little reception for me, which my friends and family went down, and of course we housed some McDonald's. No free McDonald's for life. I wouldn't mind coffee, man. I like their coffee. That'd be nice. But they fulfilled their commitment to me during that time, but it's great to be able to see an honor and an award like that still exist because in some ways it helps you to remember and appreciate being a part of that special select group even more.
And I saw you worked with a fitness strength coach in your high school career. It looked like Istvan Javorik. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's
said.
Yeah, I looked at his Wikipedia. I mean, a legend in the strength and fitness world. When did you start working with him, and did you seek him out? How did that all happen?
Yeah, I started working with him. This was, I want to say, probably my freshman year. I had sustained an injury that I needed to have some strengthening and rehabilitation from, and he was pretty well renowned, at least in the area, Kansas City that we were in. He was like the guy to go to, but I really learned so much from him. He became a dear friend, just in terms of his methods. He was from Romania, had defected here and worked with, Olympic athletes there and world-class athletes here. And, just having to be around and to learn from someone that didn't grow up in the U.S., someone that had to basically pull themselves up by their bootstraps, someone that didn't grow up here but absolutely loved the United States, loved being an American. He later, earned his citizenship. Was so incredible, and then he was able to make the most out of every resource. And so when you think about strength and conditioning today, probably your mind goes to nice, shiny, multi-million-dollar facilities with the newest, latest, greatest equipment. This was not the case for Istvan, even though he had world-class expertise. If you can remember back, and Jeff, I know you probably remember this, you can think back to more like Rocky 3. Rocky 3, when Apollo Creed was helping Rocky fight Clubber Lang, and Rocky just, went the distance with Apollo, been the world champion. And then he kind of like started training in these nice, shiny places. And then Apollo was like, whoa, you come to the hood with me, come back to the roots, get the eye of the tiger, old, sweaty, no air conditioning.
Chasing chickens around.
Weights have the rust on it. I can remember, no, listen to this. I can remember spending a ridiculous amount of time in a stairwell outside of a church in a pretty rough neighborhood, doing calisthenics and jumping drills and conditioning drills in this stairwell that often smelled of urine, that sometimes had, needles from, drug abusers in there. Like, spent an enormous amount of time conditioning in this stairwell. And to think about, the things that were developed in me during that time, not just from an athletic standpoint. Wow, in order to get to where I want to get to go in terms of the highest level of athletics, I've got to go to one of the, darkest, most difficult places I've ever been in. And I've got to work in that environment. I've got to love the process just in order to be able to have a chance to do that. And so Istvan Yavorek, or Steve, in terms of what we called him, did a phenomenal job of doing that. And I'm not just the only top level athlete. I mean, he has several NBA players, several NFL guys that have come through and grew up under his tutelage. And it was great. He's one of those unknown coaches that really transformed my life. Everyone knows Roy Williams. Everyone knows Bill Self. Everyone knows Pat Riley. But there were some incredible coaches in my life that very few people will hear about, that helped kind of grow and shape me into the athlete and the leader that I am today. And he's certainly one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Kansas City 40 plus years, and I still am amazed at people I don't know. And I'm into fitness and health and, functional strength training. And I never heard of this guy. And I was like, wow.
I appreciate this. He had us do these exercises, and they're a little bit more common, at least the framework of it, but it's called a complex exercise. And so complex is when you take maybe 4 to 5 different movements and you compound them into, one series of movements called a complex. You can look, he's been featured in Men's and Health and all strength and fitness and all those type of things. Well, I started doing that, all the way back in the late 90s as a high school freshman. And I still do those complex series here now, even today, as a 40-year-old has-been. Yeah, he was on the cutting edge, and I still and it's made. I mean, that's just the standard. Like, why do I still do those things? It's because that was the standard that was set for me back when I was a 16-year-old.
Obviously, you were graced with height, and where did you get your work ethic from?
Yeah, I think my upbringing had a lot to do with that. I mean, when you're, growing up in Leavenworth, Kansas, and so you think about the military influence there. I probably spent more time up on the Army base playing against soldiers, playing against guys that were bigger and stronger than me than I did playing with my friends. And the only way that you could stand a chance is if you had some type of physicality and toughness. And then you got a chance to see and to recognize their commitment to fitness and training and strength as just the standard for them every single day. And so I think that helped. The very same thing. Another thing that Leavenworth's known for is the prison system. And so, you got a chance. I got a chance to see and to recognize that, whether it was with, the correctional officers or whether it was with the inmates there themselves, like that was something that was, regularly modeled and a part of daily life. There was just, hard work and importance to physical fitness and how that could apply and help you. And then it's interesting that once you get a chance to be exposed to the benefits of that, whether it's through speed or strength or agility, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, what I'm putting my mind and my effort to every day, oh, wow, it's working. Wow, I am getting stronger. I am getting faster, and it's giving me an advantage over my opponent. There's something about it that just says that, man, I've got to keep doing this. It just becomes the standard. It becomes your normal. It becomes something that is a part of your daily routine. Even now, is long beyond my playing years, feeling sweat drip off my nose, feeling my heart rate climb to a level where I'm out of breath, engaging in daily fitness activity that makes me want to quit, having to push through that threshold is just something that's normal. And I think that it served me well, not only in my health, but also in my my outlook in terms of just the daily work that I do.
So what is your daily fitness routine? Because you look like you can still play.
Well, it certainly changed on the other side of 40. I'll tell you that much. As now I'm spending a lot more time listening to my body rather than pushing it to the max. I'm hoping to have a pretty long life. I've got an incredible wife and 5 kids, so I've got a lot of people depending on me. And so a lot of it has to do with that. Like, I plan and hope to be around for a long time. And so I spend a lot more time engaging in flexibility. Not necessarily from maybe a yoga standpoint. My mind gets a little bit bored in that, but more of like dynamic stretch flow. And then I certainly throw some strength and conditioning and training involved into that, which is usually full body, 5 to 6 days a week. Some days I wake up and, man, I'm feeling great. And it's like, man, today's an Olympic lift day. I can do cleans and squats and snatches and all those types of movements. And other days you're waking up and you're like, whoa, I got to listen to my body. I got to listen to my hips and my back and my neck. Man, today might just be a stretch and a cardio day. Something that takes place regularly. And, I don't necessarily feel like I've gotten off to a great start to my day unless that takes place. And it is energizing. It helps me not only physically, but my mental health, my energy as well. And so I see that to be a big part of it.
Yeah, that's great. Are you a Mark Wahlberg, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson 4 a.m. workout person, or do you have a certain time of the day you get out there?
No, I'm not certainly that early because I enjoy, getting at least 8 hours of sleep as much as I can. But, I'm usually up about 6 a.m. and probably moving at some capacity about 6:30. 6:30, 7:30, usually hours is good enough for me. And then starting on to next phase, which love to read the Bible, love to pray, meditate, journal, worship. Those things are a big priority for me as well before I get into my work day. And then I probably get a little bit more extra exercise because oftentimes when I get off work and come home to my 5 kids, my job just now starting. And so usually I'm hustling off to a basketball practice or a volleyball practice. Sometimes I'm rebounding, coaching, shagging balls, or different things like that. So I'm sure I'll probably get some extra steps and some cardio and standing time during those moments with my family as well.
Well, if you haven't heard of the book or read it, there's a book that came out a year ago, Outlive, by Dr. Peter Attia. I think you would enjoy it.
Okay.
I first heard of him in the Tim Ferriss's podcast, but I think you would really enjoy the book. So yeah, so I'm just going to touch on one thing I ask every guest, because I always love how 18-year-olds make decisions for the rest of their life. Had a sociology major when you graduated from KU. Was that your original major?
My first major, if you ask me, my freshman and sophomore year at Kansas was points and rebounds and winning. Because honestly, that's all I was focused on.
Yeah. Well, it's better than the Wheel, the Hawk, Johnny's, Quentin's.
Yeah. It's true. I was pretty much just focused on becoming a pro basketball player. And usually when you're a McDonald's All-American and you come to a school like Kansas, the odds are very, very high that you're going to do that. And so I did. It's not that I downplayed education. It's that I was actually working towards my career, very much like a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer would when they come to school. Like, I was working towards my career, and the main bulk of my energy and concentration was going towards that, which, led me to going through. And there's only so much of that I had. And so in some ways, I was kind of just going through the motions when it came to school and not being very serious about that. but doing enough to get by and to stay eligible and to keep my parents off my back. But there was actually a switch that took place in terms of my academic outlook. And it was actually when I became a Christian in 2003. And in the sense like, okay, I found myself in this place in my 20s where I was given a lot in terms of pursuing basketball. I was given a lot in terms of my relationship with the Lord, but in academics, it was just kind of like an add-on. And I kind of got convicted in the sense that, hey, I should probably be giving my best and my all to every single part of my life, not just one or two areas. And as my focus kind of shifted on that, I began to look at academics a little bit differently because as I surveyed it, like most academic disciplines and niches were ultimately something that God created and they were his idea. History, mathematics, poetry, physics, all these type of things, that the Lord created the world and everything in it. That he created these different spheres and niches of education. And so, I enjoyed people. I've been around diverse settings, whether it's ball playing brothers at the park or, soldiers and high ranking, officers in the military to high level executives. So I was like, hey, what about sociology, the study of people and people groups? And so, that's what kind of steered me towards that academic discipline. It wasn't out of a heart to become a sociologist, but I figured that my life trajectory would have me engaging with a lot of different people from a variety of different backgrounds.
Yeah, you obviously were pretty self-aware in your early 20s to make that type of decision, and yeah,
I had a lot of help. Hey, I had a lot of help. I had a lot of good coaches helping me in that too. So
that's good. A lot of people get advice from great people. Not many people take the advice. So there you go. Was there one event that led you to kind of this faith-based kind of being a Christian, or was it a series of things?
yeah, I don't necessarily know if it was like one particular event, but just, finding myself in a place where I had everything that the world says should make you happy as a 20-year-old college athlete, a lot of success individually and team wise where he was at, that had, future in the professional ranks, that, had, access and indulged in a lot of wild lifting and, just kind of found myself, broken, bored, empty, and longing for something greater to live for than myself in basketball and the approval of other people. And so, that kind of ignited a searching or pursuit in my heart for something more, and I found that in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and became a Christian, and very much like I had coaches in my life to help grow me in basketball, very much like I had teammates in my life to help me in basketball, very much like I had a training regimen in my life to help me in basketball. I was aware that those same type of dynamics were going to be needed if I were to grow in this area of my life, and I'm thankful that the Lord provided, all three of those in terms of mentors, peers, the Bible and other type of resources to be able to help me grow in those areas.
As Socrates says, know thyself. And for somebody in their 20, 21 years old, like you were, to make that type of assessment of yourself and is phenomenal. Like I said, I've interviewed over 100 guests.
Miracle. It was a miracle is what it was. It was a miracle.
This is a miracle that you're on the corporate couch. No, I'm kidding. But life is a miracle, and there's the little moments that are all miracles too. So yeah. That's how I believe. So you you play under three iconic Hall of Fame coaches.
You just say work. It was a whole lot of work.
Work. Yeah, I'm sure. Maybe it'd be an interesting question if I asked you which one made you work the hardest.
It was all the same, man. It was all the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So I believe the chronologic order is your first year. You were, that's Roy Williams' last year at KU after.
So I played 2 years for Coach Roy Williams and then 2 years for Coach Self.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So 2 years. So what was the biggest difference between Coach Self and Coach Williams coaching, Wayne Simien?
First of all, I'm very fortunate to be able to have played and been under both their leaderships. I think that when that transition happened as a young, 20-year-old, I didn't have the appreciation or perspective, pretty hurt, pretty emotional, pretty stubborn when it came to that transition and buying in, leaving an old way of doing things, which we had immense success at, and then adopting and buying into to a new way of doing things. Very, very difficult. Learned a ton, appreciate of both. But as far as the differences, like I can't even begin to explain like how different they were. To me, really the only similarities is that, they coached the same game at the same school for a certain time in their coaching career. Everything was pretty much different, which interestingly enough, they were both and have been immensely successful at doing things differently. And
Sure.
so that's why it's such a benefit, is because I've got a chance to be under, two historic, iconic leadership models, and to see both of them work, both for me individually, but then also team wise, and then even to be able to see it span generations. Because one of the things that I think is really interesting is that, their success didn't stop, but it's something that has spanned throughout their career and throughout generations. And so I'm grateful to be able to play for both those guys.
Yeah. So obviously you were recruited by Roy Williams. Were you hurt when he left for North Carolina?
Yeah, of course. And I think a lot of that had to do with our relationship had extended far beyond just 2 years that I played for him. Again, we'd had a ton of success. We were primed to get even better, and gone to back-to-back Final Fours, won back-to-back Big 12 championships, and we were just, one or two degrees from being crowned national champions. And so it felt like we were right there. I was going to be an upperclassman and helping to lead the charge in that. And so you have these different expectations in terms of what that could be like. And then he pivoted and went a different direction, which now I have a better understanding for it, which was essentially like if I were at another school coaching or working or whatever, and Kansas called me back to be able to come and to be a leader there, of course I would beyond a shadow of a doubt would drop everything and go back to Kansas. And so, I didn't quite understand that was like the case that Coach Williams was making in returning to his alma mater, his home of North Carolina. And so, yeah, there was hurt and disappointment from that, but certainly better perspective and healing that's taken place to this day.
Yeah. So what was the biggest adjustment going from, Roy's philosophy and offense and defense to Bill's?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned philosophy and offense and defense. And so some of the KU fans will understand this. For Coach Williams, when I was in school on the team, we were basically trying to score the basketball as fast as we could. We were trying to score in about 6 seconds. We were trying to score the ball so fast that we actually did drills for the big guys like me, and how fast, if the ball happened to go through the net, we allowed someone to score, how fast we could actually take it out, inbounds it, pass it up the court, and score. Like we would drill taking the ball out of the net. We were scoring, I want to say, 93 to 95 points a game, which is a blast and fun to watch. And then we had, I think our last year, I want to say we had like 15 games where we scored over 100 points, over 105 points. So think about the pace and the priority of offense. Now we'll transition to Coach Self. I remember in the first meeting that we had with Coach Self, one of the first team meetings. And mind you, we had just beat Coach Self Illinois team in the NCAA tournament not too long before that. And in the first team meeting, Coach Self acknowledged, hey, you guys are used to playing really fast. You guys are used to playing with offense as a priority and seeing how fast you could score. But how about this? We're going to make it to where the team that's on the other end of the court, they don't even score. We're going to make it to where you won't have to take the ball out of the net and take it out of bounds, because we're going to be so tough and committed to defense that the other team isn't going to be able to get the easy baskets that they like. And so it's a complete paradigm shift from scoring 95 points a game to, hey, we're going to hunker down defense. We're going to slow it down. We're going to be able to be the toughest team defensively and win all those categories. So it's a stark contrast, all right, to
Sure.
both styles and philosophies.
It's like getting a new boss in,
It
corporate
is,
America.
it is. And little did I know that it was preparing me for transitions and working under different leadership. But again, it was very successful on both sides in both ways of doing things. So, but I will admit I did like scoring a lot of points when it came to that. But yeah, we got some national championship banners hanging in Allen Fieldhouse specifically because of Coach Self's mindset and his coaching philosophy, which certainly can't go unappreciated.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Exec HQ, a C-suite fractional firm providing elite executives for your business. If you're having challenges taking your business to the next level, if you want to augment your leadership team, or prepare your company for increased growth, profitability, and an eventual successful exit, we have seasoned executives from every C-suite position ensuring a perfect fit for your needs and the dynamics of your industry. You will work with senior leaders who like to roll up their sleeves while checking their egos at the door. They can help your business in specific services such as strategic planning, executive leadership coaching, financial management, corporate governance, marketing, sales management, and many other advisory solutions vital to your business success. That's exechq.com. To learn more, go to exechq.com or email Jeff Palacio at jeff.palacio@exechq.com.
Yeah, and Roy was, a legend at that time when he left KU. And, Bill, I mean, he was just beginning his really, he had success at Tulsa, obviously. I think they still
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Tulsa, and then Illinois was their 3 year. But I mean, really, it was the beginning of his kind of trek to greatness, I'll say, at KU.
Yeah, and you think about that national championship team in 2008, his first one. The seniors on that team were freshmen when I was in school. It was so helpful that those guys were able to be there for his first year and to grow up through the growing pains of a coaching transition, their freshman, sophomore year, and then to be leaders on the other side because they had time to buy in. And it was really an incredible leadership lesson because even as talented as we were my junior and senior year, talent got us a measure of success. Went to the Elite Eight and won the Big 12 championship. And, we had some individual guys, all conference, all American, different things like that. But there was never enough buy-in to the system because we had been so successful doing things another way. There wasn't enough buy-in to the system to help get us over the hump to be able to win the whole thing. And so it's great to be able to see that class of guys like a Darnell Jackson and a Sasha Khan and a Russell Robinson that were under Coach Self long enough to fully buy into it, to then they were able to experience the fruits at the highest level and being on that national championship team because they weren't worried about how things had been done before Coach Self got there and the success that had happened before Coach Self got there. They were fully bought into that. And, I'm not sure that 22-year-old, Wayne Simien, had that type of perspective or know-how to articulate even to the guys in my class to be able to know how important that was. We just thought, oh man, we're talented enough. We've been to Final Fours, like we'll get it done. And I think that as you think about in family and corporation, any type of leadership, you need both talent and buy-in. And it's difficult to operate at a championship level without both of those complementing one another.
So unlike most college graduates, when they get their first job, you're picked in the first round, I believe the 29th pick of the draft to the Miami Heat. Pat Riley's the coach. You have Hall of Famers like Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, Dwayne Wade, Gary Payton on that team. But you're really like, it'd almost be like an accounting major competing with CFOs for a job because here they are, these people have years of MBA experience. No matter how good you were in college, it's different, right? So tell me about that transition. And you go from Lawrence, Kansas to South Beach and Miami, and you're a young guy. Tell the audience, what was that like?
I actually think that was a really good analogy, an accountant going up against, a CFO, because that's how it was, in a lot of ways. And, circling back to something you highlighted earlier in our conversation about being a McDonald's high school All-American. Well, that might get you some level of credibility at a high school level and maybe even early in the college level. But at the professional level, guys are like, huh, what? Like,
Right.
hey, we all were that and 10 times more. Like those type of things, don't even, matter, hold water. What? Big 12 player, All American. Like, what? Like, no, this is big boy ball now. And so it was quite a bit of an adjustment and a learning curve and a pushing of the reset button, so to speak. One of the best piece of advice that I got actually in transitioning from high school to college, served me well in the transition from college to the professional ranks. And it came from my high school coach, Larry Hogan. And we'd had a lot of success at that level. And he basically said, hey, man, you're going to, hey, forget everything I ever taught you. And I'm like, wait, coach, what are you talking about? Forget everything you ever taught me. Like, we had a ton of success. He was like, nope. Hey, go in and be a sponge. Be a sponge and know that you don't know and just soak everything up and just, man, push the reset button and do what they ask you to do. In a lot of ways, it was like that, needing to start from scratch in terms of my credibility, my reputation, my ability, the athleticism that I had that got me over the hump in the Big 12. Everyone was athletic. Everyone was a strong. Everyone was a skilled. Needing to find other ways to set myself apart in that on the team. And so it was good. But I had some good guys, some good mentors that I tapped into. Guys like AC Green, guys like another guy named Dave Jamerson that had navigated that transition that I leaned on heavily. Had some guys in the locker room. One of my all-time favorites. He was actually one of my favorites before we became teammates, and certainly was once I got into the league. A guy by the name of Alonzo Mourning. He was one of the best, servant leaders that I've ever been around. And one of the reasons why I think he was so really and willing and ready to take me under his wing is like he wasn't threatened by, some rookie, coming in trying to compete for his minutes or, notoriety or playing time or whatever. Number one, I wasn't that good. And number two, it was all about winning for him. And so he really helped show me the ropes, both in the locker room, whether it's playing under Coach Riley and the do's and don'ts, the ins and outs inside the locker room, but then also outside the locker room in the city of Miami, as you mentioned, that's quite a big transition going from Lawrence, Kansas to Miami. Professionalism and in my character, and so I'm thankful for guys like him that showed me the ropes there.
So was there a lot of hazing from other veterans on that team that you have to go through like a hazing process? Or
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it hazing, maybe in the traditional sense of the word that you think. But there were certainly rites of passage. There were certainly credibility that needed to be earned, as it should be. A couple of things that I remember, having to get and to do the guys' laundry, the vets, and bring them their practice lube or run errands for them, when you had some downtime between shoot around and tip off on the road. And it didn't actually last very long for me because a part of maybe the appeal of having a rookie do those things is maybe trying to elicit a response out of them in the sense that was maybe having them feel like a victim or they hated it. I just was kind of coached and had some values that really turned that into an opportunity to serve. And like, hey, if you do it with a happy heart, it really changes the experience for everyone. And so I think they probably cut some of my hazing per se. I think they might have cut that short just because I was trying to approach it.
you were
As a
no fun. You were
That was
you
no
did.
fun. I was no fun. I didn't complain. I didn't whine. I didn't do those type of things. So they're like, all right, man, just whatever. Get out of here, guy.
What were some of the things that you learned under Coach Riley? I mean, again, just an iconic. I don't know if you watched that Winning Time series on HBO, but
Well, I don't know if that Winning Time series quite encompassed Coach Riley in the light or with the accuracy
I know Jerry West, and one of the greatest basketball players of all time, rest in peace, that he did not like his character in that. I didn't hear Riley was upset, but anyhow, it was a funny series to watch and a fun series to watch because I was a 80s, 70s, 80s basketball guy. What was he like? I know you said on David's Running Hot podcast that one of the things he wasn't the best X and O guy that you played under, but his ability to bring disparate personalities together, with big egos and align them for a common goal and mission was unbelievable. And I think Phil Jackson was like that. To lead superstars is, I think, harder to lead, great players or even very good players that have a team mentality, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's spot on with what I said there, and you're well versed in Coach Riley's career and the teams that he was able to coach. I mean, you look at it, whether it's Showtime, Lakers, you look at it when he was with the New York Knicks in the late 90s.
Oakley, Ewing, John Starks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You look at it like, man, how did those pieces fit together with all those guys? How's that supposed to work? A ton of talent, but, big personalities, big egos. Like, a lot of them were really good stars individually, but man, how do you bring all that together? And he just had a secret sauce, so to speak, in being able to do that. And I love how he created an environment that highlighted and celebrated, individual talent and accomplishment, but never put that above the team goal. There's never one player that's bigger than the whole, and no one player has the ability to bring the whole along merely by themselves. Whether it's Kareem, Magic, Patrick Ewing, Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal. You go and look back at all those significant runs for those teams, and at some juncture, you had to have an unassuming guy come up and help win a game or fulfill a role that was changing to a game or to a series. One of the things that I appreciate most about Pat Riley, so many years removed, is his ability to develop leaders. He was really the type of guy that actually I would describe it as internal multiplication. He was able to raise up leaders that started out as interns, volunteers, video assistants, and create buy-in and a loyalty and give them opportunity, maybe sometimes before they were ready, to help develop them in a way unlike anything else out there. And he had enough of an established reputation where he probably had the ability to go and to pluck the top talent from other organizations, but yet for whatever reason, he was really focused on developing guys internally. And the reason why I speak to that is because I think about who's on the bench right now. A guy named Eric Spoelstra, who's going to be a Hall of Fame coach very, very soon. When I was a player there, I think he had been elevated above video coordinator, but let's just say he was still on his ascent. But you could clearly see Coach Riley was grooming him to be a really good coach. And there were some other guys in the organization as well that had started up in those lower level positions who are now, executives in the front office because he was grooming and raising them up and creating an environment and an ecosystem that rewarded loyalty and hard work that also, led to additional opportunity, and kind of removed the glass ceiling over some guys. And so I really appreciated that about him as a leader.
Tough upstate New Yorker that actually in high school, Schenectady went to in some December 29th, 1961, his team beat Power Memorial with Lou Alcindor, who became obviously Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how he didn't get ruined playing at Kentucky, but it must have been those deep New York roots that kept him going as an incredible player and coach.
And a great dresser.
Yeah, great dresser, great hair.
The hair. I should have slicked back my hair for this episode.
Lucky he didn't lose all that hanging out and being a Kentucky Wildcat, but he only had to spend a few years there. And
Love it. Love it. So, well, so most, I guess, have not won an NBA championship, especially in their first season. So what is that experience like? I mean, just going right from college and.
It was phenomenal, especially, when I'm in my first year and I'm looking across the locker room and seeing guys like you mentioned, Gary Payton, Alonzo Mourning, Antoine Walker, Jason Williams, guys that were all-stars, phenomenal players in their own right who had never experienced a championship before. They're still running jokes now going about Charles Barkley and his career as great as he was, and that they're still hanging. Shaq is still hanging that over his head on
I'm
TV.
sure Shaq's the best.
I'm devastated to see that group being broken up. And so to be able to have that experience, my rookie season, and to play a very, 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 very small part in that championship is something that's aged well, and that I have a significant appreciation for, and still use a lot of the lessons and the stories and the memories from that championship experience to be able to shape and to drive my leadership today.
What was Shaq like as a leader?
What you see on TNT and social media and all of his 50,000 commercials and endorsements is exactly what you get. He's an absolute blast to be around. Shaq was in a little bit of a different leadership stage when I was there playing for him. He was just coming off of that kind of unique breakup, so to speak, with Phil and Kobe, and he there in the Lakers, and was kind of seen as expendable, so to speak. And so he was probably on a tour to try to regain credibility.
Much like Brady wanted to win a Super Bowl without Belichick, I think Shaq wanted to win one without Colby.
He was the only one that had a championship, let alone multiple championships. And so he really did a good job of kind of leading from experience. And then he'd also been on some teams that had underachieved, that are very talented, that didn't quite get the job done without that talent. And so his leadership style was really good in having experience and perspective in both an immense amount of success, but then also some failures and some defeat. And plus, it helps your confrontation being the biggest guy in the room, right? You're already in an environment where you got dudes that are 6'7", 6'8", but when you're 7'2", 240,
and you're gonna. And Alonzo was 7 foot, so that you had 2 7-footers.
They're going to be able to get your point across pretty well in that.
A personal question. So you win the NBA title. I didn't look it up, but it's late June of 2006. I saw you married your wife, Katie, in July of 2006. Did you have to move the wedding because you were in the NBA finals?
Yeah, no, didn't move the wedding, but I will say that, I got 2 rings that year. And my favorite ring by far is the ring that my wife Katie gave me. It's the one that I wear today. All the championship rings from college and high school and the professionals, they're tucked away. Don't really see those anymore. But excited and honored to highlight this wedding ring every day. And so we actually got married that next summer.
Oh, the next summer, okay.
Yeah, the next summer. But it is interesting that the playoff bonus check that we got for winning the championships, that she got a hold of that all went to the wedding.
There you go.
As it should have. But yeah, she's phenomenal. And we met in Miami. And funny story, one of the things that I appreciate about her the most is that when we first met is that she was not impressed with basketball. Didn't know anything about my career at Kansas. We first met. She was not that into me. She was not that impressed. She asked me what I did, and I was like, I'm in the league. I play for the Heat. And her response was, well, how long is that going to last, and when are you going to get a real job?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, needless to say, that got my competitive juices going. It was probably really attractive to me that she wasn't impressed or swayed by any of that. And so I put the hard press on and pursued her and married. And shortly after that, and I've been married 18 years. So
another question to put you on the spot. It seems like you coach your kids' sports teams. Which coach do you emulate the most in your coaching style? Is it Coach Williams, Coach Self, or Coach Riley?
Probably a blend of all three of them. I like to play fast and score a lot of points. I probably have some not so nice language going on inside of my head that I don't let get externally out when it comes to coaching. And then, even youth sports, there's still a lot of egos to have to manage.
Parents' egos, especially.
There's a lot of that, and my own included. I'm certainly not exempt from that. But just youth sports in general, we could have a whole nother podcast about this. It is excruciatingly wonderful. There are so many things about youth sports that are just absolutely excruciating that you've got to deal with. But at the same time, it's really wonderful in terms of it can be such an important and formidable instrument for the shaping and the developing of young people. And you don't even have to play at the highest levels to be able to experience those type of benefits. And so there's a lot of things you have to kind of brace for impact and work through that are worth it, because again, the skills of work ethic and being coachable and battling through adversity and doing difficult things, to expose the next generation to those things in a way that can be enjoyable through the vehicle of sport. And then to see those skills transferred into other areas of life can be really wonderful.
Your professional career, is probably not what you wanted to be. You have your whole kind of life. I don't know when you started playing competitively, but probably at a young age. So you're now, a 22-year journey, give or take, where your whole focus is basketball for the most part. I mean, obviously you graduated with a degree in sociology at KU. Was your whole identity tied to the basketball? And then you knew you had to pivot at some point after playing in Spain. But what was that like for you, that moment, that period of time?
My identity wasn't certainly tethered to that anymore. I'm thankful for my Christian faith and helping to untether me to that, because had it been, it would have been really, really difficult for me to step away, and I probably would have tried to keep playing longer than I needed to. And I think I always kind of had a good perspective in that someday basketball was going to end. Probably ended a little bit earlier than what I'd hoped, or maybe what people expected from me. But I think along the way, I'm grateful that I was able to build some skills and some relationships and develop new passions along the way. That as my basketball career was kind of on the descent, so to speak, there were some other things that I was really excited about doing. And one of those things was, after I transitioned away from basketball, I got into campus ministry for 13 years, which is basically, mentoring, ministry, leadership, those type of dynamics on the college campus. And so I would basically kind of dabble and explore and, execute those type of things during the off season. There was even a program that the NBA put on, a continued education program for business and entrepreneurship at the Stanford Business School. And I went and took that. It was like a little 3-week accelerated course under Professor George Foster at the Stanford Business School. And I remember, going on that and learning how to be an entrepreneur, learning how to, run your own business and network and different things like that. And so those type of skills and relationships are really helpful, for me to be able to make that transition, which I know isn't always the case. But I think just, being a lifelong learner and having an appetite for new things and to add tools to my tool belt helped in that transition. And it's something that I want to continue to do even years removed from that.
So the last almost 3 years now, you've been the assistant AD at KU of engagement, focused on team and staff leadership. What was that kind of transition like? Because now I don't know if this is a right analogy, but, you played at KU on, the iconic KU basketball, program. Now you're kind of in the back office or in the factory seeing how the sausage is made. Was that any big surprises there?
I think that to a degree it encompasses that. I get a chance to see things internally a little bit more, probably when I was a student athlete and not far after, you would show up to, a place like Allen Fieldhouse on a game day, and, you would oversimplify it and think that, oh yeah, these people they just show up and watch basketball. It happens, but, there are a number of things that happen behind the scenes, whether it's facilities and operations, marketing, ticket sales, fundraising, TV agreements, radio, multimedia rights deals. All these type of things are highly involved into producing the end product of what we see on a night in and night out basis. And all of these type of things have significant implications towards winning, towards highlighting a brand. And so that's been enjoyable to be able to learn here from that. And again, it's developed a greater appreciation from my vantage point towards the people that work behind the scenes. And I'm one of those now. And so that's been cool. And then
very
also
visible behind the scenes though at 6'9" though.
Yeah. And, maybe a little bit more recognizable, in the field house because of my background, but I'm happy to, to serve, in whatever way that I can. And so, I've got the luxury of kind of being a Swiss Army knife, when it comes to my role and serving, on, an executive side, serving with a forward-facing role with a lot of our student athletes and coaches, and then also, doing a lot of fundraising and engaging with donors and some of our external business partners as well. And so, getting a very well-rounded exposure to, a lot of things around college athletics, which is all business.
Well, I asked my last two questions I ask every guest, but I'm going to throw one in before that because, we talked about Shaq. We talked about your appearance on David Voorhees' Running Hot podcast, eating spicy wings. So Shaq has that famous Hot Ones episode where and it's iconic and all that. So who's a better hot wing eater, you or Shaq?
I've only seen the one take.
Yeah, the
Shaq,
one take. Yeah, it's famous.
Where he says, "Man, Kansas, I don't know nothing about no hot sauce in Kansas, whatever." And then of course he loses it. He's probably better because I had got a chance to watch the scout report earlier and see that from Shaq. So I was kind of expecting to be in a significant amount of pain. And I'm gonna correct you on one thing. You used the word spicy. It was not spicy. This was a whole nother category of, flaming hot lava that set me on fire.
Yep, 337,000.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, and it was not. I did not exaggerate. It was not. I did not put any extra on it. But I kind of knew what I was getting into. David, if you're watching this, I don't like you enough to put myself through that. I did it for the kids. It wasn't for you and our friendship. And I would definitely like to make that a one and done. I'm not sure I want to do that again.
I love it. Wayne, I do ask a guest to help two different types of people. One's that recent college graduate. As they graduate from KU or any other university or college, what career advice do you have for them as they begin that professional journey? And I don't know if you want to add maybe your take on a college athlete that is not going to continue on with their professional career in a sport, but go into kind of the corporate America. And maybe it's the same advice, but if you have any differences with those different groups of people, love your thoughts on it.
I think we do well to expect life to be difficult. I've been working on the college campus for a long time. A lot of young people transitioning into the professional world think that the hard part of their journey is over with. The difficult major, the finals, the late night study sessions, and everything in between. No, it's actually just getting started. And so to expect it to be difficult, and the people that think that it's going to be easy, that they wash out, that they aren't able to commit and endure through the difficult things. They'll change careers, 6-7 times every 2 years. They're changing jobs, changing careers. But, it's those that can, expect it to be difficult, that have, the grit, the resilience, that can push through things, that can build scars and strength through operating under difficult leadership or having a terrible salary, for a few years. That actually produces something in you of immense value and actually creates value for yourself for the future. I think that's really, really important for a lot of people to consider. Is like, hey, it's going to be difficult. It's supposed to be difficult. Everyone out there is vying and going after the same thing, and it's not going to be given to you. And so, to make sure that you're training and preparing yourself for a way that when it does hit, that you're not surprised, and certainly that you don't quit, because when you do that, you'll never have a chance.
The second group is once you become a official leader, even though you don't have to have people underneath you to be a leader at a company, but once you do get that title and now you are responsible for a group of people on the org chart, and from an HR perspective, what advice would you have for them as they begin their leadership journey in corporate America?
Yeah, I mean, remember, remember who you were before that. Remember the excitement, the joy that you had years before when you were hopeful of being able to attain a position like that. Right now you can't see it. I've got this animated picture right now of Danny Manning on my wall. I've got it on my wall because I remember this was the first image that I saw when I might have been like 8 years old of a Kansas athlete. And I remember seeing it thinking like, hey, I don't know who that is or what he's doing, but that's cool. I want to be like that. And I remember it generating like an awe and wonder kind of in my heart of Kansas athletics for the very first time. So the reason why I have that in my office is so it can be a continual reminder now that I'm in a place of leadership and influence here within Kansas athletics. It's filled with highs and lows. It's filled with long hours. It's filled with disappointment and frustration and all the things that come with leadership. I need to see and to remember that on a daily basis of, wait a minute, I remember the awe and the wonder that I experienced all those years ago just to be a part of it. And now I'm a part of it. And not only am I a part of it, I'm a leader in it. And I need to tap into that, what I experienced long ago. And then also know that the decisions that I'm making to help in this organization now moving forward can generate that type of awe and wonder in the next generation of future Jayhawks. And so I tell that story to kind of help, man, remember who you were, before you got the title that you were, and the excitement and the, exhilaration that you were looking forward to. Man, if one day, if I could just get to that position, if one day I could just sit in that seat, if just one day I could have, be on the stage or have the microphone or have the influence, then I would X, Y, Z. I think it's important to capture and to preserve and to guard, that type of sentiment, lest it just become ordinary, mundane, 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. No, great advice. I love that because you can do a presentation to like incoming freshmen or incoming new employees, hundreds of times, but it's the first time they're seeing it. So you have to bring that same A game and enthusiasm. It's like Jordan, I think he had a quote, I give it my all every game because this could be somebody's only time they're ever going to see me. Wayne, thank you so much. I love you're so humble. You're definitely, your servant leadership. You've been a great guest, and I was honored to have you on the Corporate Couch. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for the work you're doing and getting stories like this out to people, and I know it's making an impact.
Wow, Wayne Simien. First of all, it's the first guest that I would say I knew as a teenager when he was a teenager, because I watched him play at the iconic Allen Fieldhouse when he was playing for KU, as well as probably Sprint Center, now T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. So yeah, I'd like to thank two of my son-in-laws, Ryan Murphy and Owen Knotts, who did the research on Wayne's college and NBA and professional career. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I mean, obviously knew a lot about Wayne, local Kansas City metro area, Leavenworth High School, McDonald's All-American. It's so great. I mean, and obviously we don't use the video much. He was standing and he's 6'9". But
so he's kind of imposing even on Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. So his presence, I mean, he's so humble. I mean, it's just,
oh, he's an amazing guy.
And articulate. And I go back to his, like most colleges, basketball programs, they have a senior night, so seniors get to talk in front of the crowd. And his speech was all about how he found the Lord, and it guided him. And, and he just was articulate then as a senior in college. Like, there's almost 16,000 fans at Allen Fieldhouse, and you're giving a speech to 16,000 fans. And I don't know. It's just so many good things came. I just had much more, not that I didn't respect him before, but I just got a new appreciation of him and his leadership and how humble he is. And he's a servant leader. He's continuous trying to improve himself physically, mentally, spiritually. And then the lessons. I mean, he plays for 3 Hall of Fame coaches in his career, Roy Williams and Bill Self at KU, Pat Riley, one of the best coaches in NBA history, and actually goes from, losing in the first round of the senior in the NCAA, a big upset by the big Bucknell over KU, goes to the NBA and wins the NBA title.
As
and
a
he wasn't
rookie,
a starter.
right?
Yeah. And then the leadership, that team was crazy. They had Hall of Famers like Shaq and Dwayne Wade and Alonzo Mourning and Gary Payton. Like, those are they're Hall of Fame players. And so all that leadership. And I love that he talked about Shaq a little bit. And because I said, like, what was Shaq's leadership like? And he goes, well, what you see on TNT when he's doing commentary, that's Shaq. So Shaq's a fun-loving, but he was a presence in the NBA, and I love his personality. So so many great things.
There are so many stories there. It's amazing, and it's really neat to have stories like that about like I can remember back. Whenever he tells a story, then I can remember backwards, like, okay, so what was I doing then, and what was my impression of what that story was and everything. So I remember back in the transition between Roy Williams and Bill Self, Wayne was there for 2 years, and then as a junior, just finally like coming of age in this KU basketball. And Roy Williams says, "Nah, I'm gonna leave. Here's this other guy named Bill Self, and he's going to be your leader now for the next 2 years." And so I thought that was so telling that you asked what was the difference in their strategies. And man, are they like night and day? They are like night and day. Roy Williams was all about offense. And Bill Self had more of a balanced approach between offense.
Yeah, they had the drill and practice how quickly the big men could get the ball out of the net after the opposing team
pull it out of the net
to
and run down the field.
I mean, phenomenal.
It was amazing. So one of the things that you always do at the end of your interviews is that you ask, what advice do you have for today's high school graduating seniors? And this one really struck me as being significant. He gave a really long answer, but it could be boiled down to just these few words. He said, life will be difficult. Life will be difficult. So don't expect things to be handed to you. Don't expect that it's going to be easy. When you get into college, life is going to be difficult. I would like to add to that, life is not fair, and there should be no expectation of fairness in life. And I think that you and I, being baby boomers, we're one of the first generations that thrust upon our children that we wanted our children to have a much better life than what we had. I don't think that was a thing before. And frankly, I think we're paying a little bit of the price for that now with the millennials that are coming in now, thinking that life owes them something. Well, guess what, guys? Life owes you nothing. Life is not fair. There will be people that will not like you. There will be people that will not agree with you. You will not be able to convince everybody that you are right all the time. In fact, you won't be right a lot of times. If you're in athletics, statistically, you will lose half the games you play, right? I think that's a realization that we need to impart upon the high school seniors of today. Life will be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, you graduate from college and it's, they think it's, I've just got through the finals and I've worked so hard and it was hard. Like, that's not hard.
Life is
Start
hard.
your professional career. Yeah, exactly. So speaking of imparting things, Joe, what would you like to give our listeners today in regards to leadership?
We are
advice?
going to go to one of the greatest philosophers on the comics page, somebody who is only known as the pointy-haired boss. And the pointy-haired boss one time said this in a meeting. He said, "Let's do a deep dive in the big data and drill down until we hyper-localize some disruptive technologies. Now, that's enough leadership. The rest of you go out and do something."
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Corporate Couch. If you enjoy the podcast, I would love for you to take 2 minutes out of your day to rate us 5 stars and write a review. Please join me next week to learn from another great leader sharing their professional journey and insights.